This is Mikey Mason, and you're listening to Why We Game.
I'm Brodor, and this is Why We Game. Today's guest is Brett Condit. Now, Brett, I don't know what your official title with the fantasy shop actually is, because you're not a store manager,
no,
but you work for the guy who's essentially doing the job that I used to have at the fantasy shop, right? So what do they call you?
I'm not sure they have a title for me either.
That's okay. Sounds like not a lot's changed in the last several years. Okay, no title.
I am a manager. I do have the authority to speak as a manager. I am not a store manager. I do not really deal with a lot of the day-to-day stuff. I am mostly back office. Sometimes I'll do John's job when he's not in town. Sometimes I am just assisting the other managers do their job. And
John's essentially the general manager overseeing the four shops. Yeah, I know that's not the title he used.
He is the buying manager, but he also does just about every other aspect of it because he's John. So
right, yeah.
You ask John to do something, he's going to say, "Yeah, I can do that."
Absolutely. So I've had Dave Wallace, the owner of the fantasy shops, on a couple of times. I'd reach out to Kelly, but I don't know if she'd be interested in doing something like this.
I think it'd be worth reaching out. I'm not sure if she would be interested either, but I think her perspective would be different.
Yeah, because that's somebody that I could have on the show and we could really shit on Dave. I mean, because he's the guy. Wallace is a guy for whom I have the dichotomy of devotion and disdain, right? I love and hate him like family. And you only understand that when you're talking about family. You could only love someone so much or be so angry and disappointed in someone so much if you're super close.
Yeah, and I think that's how those kind of emotions work in general. The people who are going to hurt you the most are the people you love the most. The people who are going to get the deepest to you are going to be the ones that you despise the most. Like that has to be a sort of the dichotomy of it. That has to be the give and take. If you don't let someone in that deep, they can't make you that mad. They can't hurt you that much, but you're not going to love them that much either. But if you let them in, they have access to both sides of that.
It makes me rage. Anyway, I mean, I don't want to be without emotion, but I don't want to let people close because I don't want to get hurt because I know I sound like such a baby. So let's just jump right into it. How old are you?
I am, I'll be turning 39 this year.
You do not look at, you have the babyest face, man. If you would have told me that you were 29, I would have believed it.
Yeah.
So you're almost, oh wow, so you're close to 40.
Yeah.
You're much older than I thought you were. No, I did not think we were that close in age because I'm 46.
Yeah.
So what? So 39, that's 7 years younger than me. So what? You're born in 82?
Yep.
All right. So you're a child of the 90s then. So
yes.
You came of age during the 1990s. So
absolutely.
I guess in that time, so D&D is either it's going to be second edition D&D if that's where you started.
It absolutely was. That's where I cut my teeth. My first adventure ever, I actually was playing a thief because it wasn't a rogue back then, and I got bit by a camel twice and died. It was a camel I was trying to ride, and he did not like me. So that was the very end of my first character.
What shitty game mastering. And I'll tell you, I'm totally guilty of, I mean, I have years of shitty game, probably decades of shitty game mastering under my belt. But dude, the adventure's just starting, man. Come on, throw me a damn bone. I
woke up hours later on the camel and we were going towards where we were supposed to go.
Well, okay, I'm all right with that.
I died.
Yeah. Got your ass kicked by a camel. That's funny. It reminds me of the Schwarzenegger Conan movie. Yeah. the camel kicks your ass.
Yes.
So you started, how old were you when you got into D&D?
Oh, that would have been 13, 14, middle school. Yeah, because my DM was a middle schooler. We were friends, and he lived out in the country, and it was weird because I lived in the city, but they had to be bussed in because they had gotten kicked out of the school they were in, so they were troublemakers in general. Great kids. Loved them. Dustin Fisher was his name. He was a drummer, too. He got me into punk rock. A lot of my early sort of, I don't want to say deviant, but semi-deviant like
So
lifestyle choices.
This guy, he got you laid for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured because he's here, so you're hanging out with this cool guy who's into punk music, who's playing the drums. I want to be this kid, right? In the 90s for absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hair down to like midway down his back. Him and his older brother, both of them got kicked out of the school. I think from what I remember, there was a huge fight. One of them picked on, like one of the other kids picked on the younger brother, Dustin, and the older brother got into it, and it just, all hell broke loose, and they blamed it on them because they were, deviant kids, sort of. They were into punk music, looked different, did not fit in. So I'm from Iowa, too. So this is small town Iowa. They did not fit in. They did not look normal, so it was like, nope, you gotta go. You gotta go to the big city, which is Des Moines.
Yeah, because you had to fit in.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got a tail end of that I had, or that my older brother had growing up into gaming, that there was a societal norm that you had to conform to. And so I assume that because you were playing D&D, you were viewed as outside or other?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a really poor neighborhood. I was, for lack of a better term, I was the only white kid in my neighborhood. I was out of place there. And then when I went to school with this cross-section of kids that were all from this rich neighborhood and from the poor neighborhood. So I just was completely outside. I was in my own little bubble with like maybe 10 other kids that were in that same sort of, we're not rich, we're not well off, but it's not okay to be in that group either. So we're like just on our own little island playing like very early computer games like Chuck Yeager, Ace Combat, D&D after school. Yeah.
Wait. Okay, I'm sorry. Because I missed that one. What is D&D after school?
No, that's just hanging out after school playing D&D.
The way you said it, and I swear to God I'm sober because I didn't want my house to smell like weed when you came over, but at least more than it just does as a normal baseline of smelling like weed, which I'm sure it does with all the foam on the walls in here. But I just, the way you said it, I was like D&D after school, like it was some Orwellian program to do sort of after school specials, but from a D&D cartoon perspective, right? Like that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. No, so it became our ritual. It was every day after school, we would hang out, play D&D before the bus came to pick them up, and the bus came to get me, and that was what it was. That was the beginning.
So how long, I'm sorry, you said you were in middle school when you started.
Yeah.
And you played all through high school. Did you go to university?
Yeah, I did. Not the normal route. I went for about 3 months. So that was 2001. So I have memories of being on my futon for 9/11 in college. And after that, it just didn't seem like it was worth it to go get the degree, do that sort of lifestyle. So I dropped out quickly after that and milled about doing a lot of healthcare work. I was a CNA for a long time. I worked in nursing.
CNA?
Certified nurse's aide. I took care of the elderly. I would help them eat. I'd help them go to the bathroom, help them get changed in it. And yeah, that paid the bills for a long time and eventually got me back into school.
So 9/11 happens.
Yes.
You reevaluate why you were going to college.
Yeah.
You go to clean up old people's butts.
Yep.
And essentially dedicate yourself to helping those less fortunate than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I feel like complete garbage.
So it started out very not altruistic. It was very little training. You need like 5 or 6 weeks to get your CNA license, which is far too few. And it was good pay. It was $11, $12 an hour. So it was way above minimum wage at that time. And it was just like I needed money to fuel my other habits, which, I was in a punk band. I was smoking weed. I was spending a lot of money on all my nerd activities. So, you need money for that. Eventually I got to really enjoy it, fell in love with what I was doing and decided to get my bachelor's in biology so that I could get my postgraduate degree, my doctorate in physical therapy.
Are you still on your way to do that?
No, I got interrupted. So post getting my bachelor's, I'd been accepted to the school. It was a school out in Portland. That's when I got diagnosed with the ankylosing spondylitis, which is arthritis of the neck and spine.
Oh God, that's got to be excruciating.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, as a middle-aged man, I have arthritis in my knuckles now. I can't imagine how awful that's got to be on your neck.
Yeah. It's not ideal. They gave me a medication for that. It's an injection once a month. About 6 months after taking that, I'd applied for disability at this point. I got diagnosed with something called severe aplastic anemia, which is a blood disorder, for lack of a better term. It's not cancer, but it effectively works like cancer. My bone marrow does not make enough platelets or red blood cells. It got to the point where I was hospitalized for about 2 weeks, getting injections about every other day, infusions. And they were like, look, we don't have the resources to take care of this. You need to either go to Iowa City, which is where the University of Iowa Hospital was, or the next closest place was Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis. They're really good at it. My brother lived near Forest Park, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go to St. Louis, move in with my brother, and go to Barnes Jewish. So that's how I ended up in St. Louis.
For those of you that don't, St. Louis is a big hub for Washington University,
yes,
for their medical school.
Yep.
And we have some pretty phenomenal facilities downtown.
Absolutely.
So, and then that neighborhood that your brother lived in is right next door to,
absolutely,
to the university
like
and to the
blocks
hospitals.
away. Yeah.
So were you gaming that whole time? Do you take gaming with you?
Sort of. I could play video games at that point.
You were too sick to participate.
Yeah. And I wasn't allowed a whole lot of visitors because my immune system was really shot. So they let me hook my Xbox up to the TV in the hospital room.
Right.
That was pretty cool. But no, I had pretty much, and I didn't have a group once I moved down to St. Louis anyway. So I was pretty much cut off from like gaming as a whole at that point.
How did you get back into it?
Through a girl. As all stories start, I met this girl. We were dating for a little bit. We went to Ireland for about a month.
That sounds amazing. Dude, going overseas, going to another country together, having a fresh relationship had to be super exciting and passionate and infuriating.
Oh, absolutely. By the end of it, the relationship was over, but it was still a great time. I have fond memories of my time in Ireland. So what happened was I got my disability. It had been about 2 years, so they back pay you all of that time. But you can't keep it. You can't have a large amount of money in your bank account because they consider that earnings, and you're like, oh, well, now you're earning too much, we're going to cut you off. So you have about a month to spend it.
Because of government bureaucracy,
yes,
it takes 24 plus months to get you your disability, and now you're going to be penalized because you have too much money in your account because it took them so long to get you the money, they owed you a shit ton of back pay.
Yes. And you can't even buy things for it because they'll consider that like worth. Like you can't buy a car because they're like, oh, well, that has a value. That counts towards your net worth.
Why is government always wrong?
I mean, it worked out well in my favor. I got to spend a month in Ireland, but we could do a whole other podcast on the healthcare system in this country because I have stories. But that's what got me back because we got back from Ireland. We broke up. We were still living together, though, because we were both kind of
awful-ish. Absolute hell. Absolute hell.
Yeah. We were living in St. Charles, and I needed a job. And she goes, well, I used to go hang out at the fantasy shop, and that's where I used to play Magic and game and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'll go in. Got an application. Within a couple of weeks, was hired. And that was my re-entry into the world of games and gaming.
And that was how long ago? Because you've been there for a long time now.
Close to 4 years, yeah. Going on 4 years in April. My first day was free comic book day.
What the hell were they thinking?
Trial by fire?
Oh, my God, that's awful. Okay, I mean, I left the company in 2015. If there's a couple things, the top three that I don't miss, man, free comic book day. And not the day itself, all the preparation and BS leading up to it, and then all the extra garbage and trash and gunk dealing from the leftovers.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening because everyone has this idea, oh, I'm going to work at a comic shop, I'm going to work at a game shop, it's going to be so much fun, we're going to sit around, talk games, read comics, and sure, that stuff happens. But there is so much work that goes into making sure everyone else is having a good time. and you get slapped in the face by that. Just absolutely sucker punched. I loved it because I'm a hard worker. I always have been. When I was going to school, I was working full time the whole time I was in school, but I was not expecting it. And being sick and not being at my full capacity, it wore me out. It still wears me out.
How do you do it then?
Pure passion and spite, I believe. No, not spite. I am fueled by an overwhelming sense of zest for life. Like the Iggy Pop song, Lust for Life, man. I am alive. That could not be true any second. And I know that better than most. And so every second I'm here, I'm going to put everything I have into it. And if it means I'm exhausted at the end of the day, all right, it's a small price to pay for living, for truly living and being in the moment.
And dear listener, this is why we have Brett on the show today, because most people that go to their FLGS or their local comic book store don't have any understanding of the complexity and the effort that goes into working a store. And you, very similar to me, worked your way from being a clerk to management to now working in the office of the fantasy shop. So we have a similar experience in those terms, but you've been there the entire time that I have not. Yeah. And so not only am I interested in your experiences as a veteran game store employee, but also as somebody who's worked for a company that's been a part of my life since I was in the single digits, and what you have experienced since I've been gone and how the company has changed. And I think those are interesting subjects. But let's go back to gaming. Was it always Dungeons and Dragons, or did you, because this is the 90s, right? So like all the beautiful people are playing World of Darkness.
Yes. And I got a taste of it, and I liked it, but it wasn't okay. So a little bit of backstory here. I was sick from school one day in middle school, and my mom's like, "Here you go," and hands me The Hobbit. And there it is, fantasy, fantasy world.
And she told you, don't read the next 3 because it is an arduous task that will make you want to eat a bullet.
That's not what she said. She said actually that there's more of them after that, because I was like, I need more of this. And she goes, oh, there's more. And so I started into that and eventually got to the Silmarillion, and I still have not completed that book. Someday maybe. But so fantasy is my first love. Elves, dwarves, the whole knights. D&D really spoke to me on that level. I've tried other gaming systems. D20 Modern is one of my absolute favorites. GURPS, Rifts, Shadowrun, Mutants and Masterminds. I have played a lot of different systems out there. D&D is almost always where I fall back to. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it outside of those first fantasy novels I read and getting hooked into that sort of like the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant by Stephen R. Donaldson.
Never read those.
Yeah, they're a really weird one. Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, just everything that was fantasy. Gene Wolfe, all of that. Loved it and just wanted to be in that world, wanted to experience that. And D&D was the closest thing you could get to that.
Do you do any toy soldier gaming?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because for me, I mean, I have a lot of D&D figs, and most of my miniature collection is for tabletop role-playing games. But I think that if I recall correctly, you have a penchant for the Warhammer 40K.
So when I started working at the shop, pretty much everything they do there, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try it. And then like hundreds of dollars later, I'm like, okay. But yeah, I have I'd say 4 40K armies at this point. I have an Orc army, which is probably close to 4,000 points. I have a Space Marine army, Ultramarines, because everyone buys Space Marines at some point. Space Wolves, an Alpha Legion army I'm working on right now.
Wow, so not only do you sink money into D&D and tabletop. So do you do board games too?
I absolutely do.
All right, so then are you a comic fan?
Yes, I am.
My God. Well, how do you do? I mean, I understand that you're dying and you want to experience this. You want to shoehorn as much life as you can get in. But my God, man, when do you find the time?
I mean, the one good thing about dying is they don't ask you to work as much as everybody else. So I do have a little bit more free time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like not doing things. So sitting still to me, watching TV, it's not enough. I want to be doing more. So even if I'm watching TV, I want to be building or painting a figure. Even if I'm reading a book, I'm thinking about how I can take some of the ideas and put it in the next campaign I run my friends through. If I'm like outside walking around, I'm looking at the different colors of the world and thinking, okay, could I use that in any sort of like paint scheme? Would that look good on a Sigmar like heraldry?
Now, were you always this positive, optimistic?
Oh, no.
Okay. So was this change a result of the diagnosis?
Absolutely. I tell people it is the best thing that ever happened to me. Getting sick, finding out that I had this issue, finding out that I could die, within months, days, years, was single-handedly the biggest thing that changed and affected my life for the better. It got me out of a really terrible relationship. It got me out of Iowa, which I love Iowa. Don't get me wrong. I will sing praises about Iowa all day long, but there's not a lot to do there. So it got me out of Iowa. It got me to Ireland. It got me to Iceland. It got me, I have done more living since then than I ever thought I would do before then. And it's hard to be that same depressed emo kid anymore. It's hard to why would I waste my time doing it? I could be upset about being sick, but why wouldn't I rather just be happy?
And again, I'm going to ask this is so lame and it's not gaming related at all, but do you think that optimism, that positivity has impacted your prognosis?
Wow. I've never actually thought about that. I'm sure to some degree it has to, because we know the mental state of yourself in fact affects your body. We know there's not a whole lot of science behind it, but we know that's true. Depressed people are physically or generally in worse health than people who aren't. So I would have to say, yeah, absolutely it has. And
now, I could do a whole episode on depression and how it affects you physically, but
yeah. And even if it doesn't, the fact that I want to think it does and I want to attribute it to that just gives me more reasons to be happy, to express my joy, to play with my toy soldiers on the field, or, write my next campaign, or read the next novel that comes out by whoever, Sanderson,
Oh, yeah, sure.
So it just...
Yeah, a good writer who actually gets his work finished.
Yeah. But yeah, it just gives me more push, more reasons to keep going,
And again, if this is indelicate or rude, I apologize. Did they give you, for lack of a better term, a death date, an estimated amount of time that you would live?
Yes. When I first got sick, it was, if we don't do something now, if we don't start giving you regular infusions of blood now, it was by the end of the week. So some numbers real quick. The normal human rate of blood cells in your body for platelets is 400 to 140,000. That's in between there is healthy. At the time I was in the hospital, I was at 6,000. They told me that if I bent over incorrectly, I could cause internal bleeding and could bleed out. Yeah, so at that time it was immediate, every day they tested my blood, every day they hooked me up to an IV and they transfused blood into me, and that was what was keeping me alive. And that went on for 6 months. I would have to go up to, once I moved to St. Louis, I had to go up to the cancer care clinic at Barnes. They would test my blood, they would jab me in the arm, and I'd sit there in a chair for a couple hours while they transfused blood. Then they got me on this new medicine. Okay, this gets us back to the healthcare here. It's called Promacta. The cost for me is $24,000 a month.
I see.
And the only reason it costs that much is because it is literally necessary to keep me alive. As far as I can tell, there is no other reason for this. It's not like they make it out of unicorn horn. It's not hard to make or anything like that. It is literally because it is only useful in keeping people alive that it costs that much. Luckily, between having Medicare and sort of oh, you're poor, we'll help you out program, I don't pay a whole lot of that. I do pay, but not nearly that much.
Well, thank God.
Yeah. But since then, it's been a little bit better. So my levels are generally around 60 to 70,000, which is still way under normal, but not, oh, we're worried about you dying. But even with that, they're 4 to 5 years. which is kind of brings me to a funny story. When I was applying to Fantasy Shop and I was in my second interview, sitting down with John Perks and Danny, she was like, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I responded, dead. And the whole room just went silent. And I let it sit for like 2 or 3 seconds, and I started laughing because I needed them to know right then and there that this was where I was at in my life, but it was absolutely okay. I am okay with this, and I needed them to be okay with it too because I can't stand pity. I can't stand people feeling sorry for me. I have an amazing life. I am incredibly happy. Don't feel sorry for me. Yes, I'm in a shitty situation, but fuck, everyone's in a shitty situation. We live during one of the most depressing times in the whole of human existence, with maybe the exception of the Dark Ages. Like, don't make it special that I am in a shitty situation. Like, I'm a happy person. I have most of what I want in life. I get to do the things I love on a near daily basis. I'm good.
How long was it working as a clerk for the Fantasy Shop before you started climbing the management ladder there?
I would say it was about 2 years. I mean, long before that, I am not your usual comic book clerk. I wasn't there for a year or so while I was in high school or college to just have a job. I was there because I loved the place. I was there because I loved the hobbies. I was there because I need a minimum wage job, and why not do the things you love? So I put everything I had into it. I'd be going into the back and talking to John or Dave about what was happening even back then. Even when I was a clerk, I would be like...
You were expressing interest in the workings of the business and the industry.
The only thing I was down on was meetings. I can't stand meetings, and they do a lot of meetings.
When they're too long and... Oh, my God, one of the most angry... anyway, I'm sorry. This is about you.
So they were like, well... I told them then, I was like, I would love to be in management, but I can't do the meetings, so they kind of like backburnered me for that. They looked at other people ahead of me for that, because that was just something, it's like, I don't have that kind of time in my life. I don't want to spend 8 hours in a meeting. But then it got to the point where Danny was on her way out. Casey had moved down to South County. John King was coming up to be a manager. He had brought Aubrey with him to be an assistant manager, and it didn't feel like there was enough of St. Charles there anymore. So I was like, I gotta do something. So I was like, yes, give me whatever. Put any sort of responsibilities on me. I will sit through meetings. Just let me have my hands in this. Let me actually fiddle with the knobs and the buttons. And
well, and that time in particular at the Fantasy Shop for you, I mean, that was a really turbulent time. There was a lot of turnover. There was a lot of drama.
Yeah.
And even my sources telling me that some of that drama has come back to rear its head.
I don't.
You don't think the person who was suspected of stealing was not stealing, and the person who is gone now was actually the thief? And I'm not saying any names, wicked vague. I'm simply saying that there was somebody who essentially was worked out the door, who may very well have been innocent of what they were accused of.
Yes. And there are lots of things that don't add up to what the equations we were getting.
Right.
You know, A and B was not equaling C.
Right.
In a lot of different places.
Right. And I think one of the things that I always liked about Dave was expressing the importance of communication and what have you. But, you know, God bless him, when he sets his mind to something, that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. He will say, hey, it's your guys' decision, unless, of course, I say this thing that's then going to be my decision. And I get it. It's his shop.
It's his skin in the game, so to speak.
Absolutely. It's been that way for nearing 40 years at this point. So at that point, I'm just like, all right, that's your call.
Yep.
I accept it, because if it were my business, if it were more under my control, I may stand up and argue about it, but it's not. So not my place.
I wish we'd work together. I really, really do, man, because I have very fond memories of working in that place, and you have the thing that all of the lifers had or have working at the stores. You care about the hobby more than you care about the job, but you also care about representing what it is that Dave has built, right? Like, yes. You recognize that thing is bigger than him, and it's so much a part of everybody's life in the St. Louis area, because he's been here, well, I mean, for longer than you've been alive.
Yes.
And has been a part of my life, like I said, since I was like 9 years old, man. Anyhow, you decide, well, fuck it, I need responsibility. Give me something to do, because we have all these people coming in, which, you know, spoiler alert, not going to be here very long. And you want to make sure that the store stays St. Charles. So you start going and you start doing managerial stuff.
Yes.
So did you then jump into that with both feet?
Oh, absolutely. That's how I do everything. I was making schedules. I was trying to figure out what events we were going to run. I was, at the time, so John King had then left, and Aubrey was just then automatically pushed into managing, and we were sort of co-managing at the time.
Right.
Like, we were splitting the duties, we were splitting responsibilities, we were trying to make sure everything kept running.
Which is a terrible way to do it. We did not communicate well at first, and it did not go well at first. I would do anything Aubrey told me. It's not appropriate. I adore her, and I would do anything that she told me to do, and including cause bodily harm to other humans.
Well, then it's probably a good thing you didn't work there, because I'm sure there are times that she wanted to do me bodily harm, and I don't want to.
If she came back, if I was a general manager and she came back and she looked at me and she's like, Mike, and she's in that kind of raspy, mean voice that she has, but you just love her. She's got that rough voice, and she'd be like, I need you to kill Brett. I'd be like, how would you like it done, Aubrey? Would you claw hammer? Like, how you tell me how you want this to happen?
Yeah, and I don't doubt it for a second, and I would not be here right now.
Yeah.
But no, we got much better. We got much smoother. Part of that was Rachel coming in. Rachel has been an absolute godsend. So she is, for lack of a better term, a muggle. She is not a gamer. Has not really been.
She's blonde, short. No, she's delightful.
Yes, absolutely.
She's delightful. I mean, and again, I'm going to sound like a dick, but she's one of the few employees that has been there since I left that I'm fond of.
Yes, and she brought us a spark of energy and organization that we didn't really have at the time. And she sat down and was like, okay, every Monday, the three of us need to sit here and decide this week, what do we need to get done? Whose responsibility is it? And every Monday we go in there as a group and we talk about who's going to do what's going to get done, what do we want done by the end of the week. And now we're doing store meetings twice a month, and we've got the manager meetings on top of that, and we're running more efficiently than we have since I started there.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited about the future. I know there have been a lot of changes, especially from your time there. In the past 2 years alone, the number of changes that store and the business has gone under has been monumental, but that's the same for the industry.
Sure.
And Dave has always been like, well, if the industry is going to change, let's try to be at the forefront of it. Let's try to anticipate where that change is going to go.
Is that why he does cutting edge internet sales and digital inventory control?
Yeah, he was the first one on that.
You guys don't use a digital inventory.
We don't.
It's 2021.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
So that hasn't changed.
No. We've talked about it. We're always talking about it.
When I was there, we spent not a small amount of money on it.
Yeah.
And time and training, but that's neither here nor there. I said, I love Dave, and this is nothing that I will not be afraid to say to his face.
Yeah, no, and see, here's where it's interesting. As far as like the minutia, the detail stuff goes, a lot of that stuff doesn't really change. It's the sort of idea of what a gaming store is that's changing, and that's what we're trying to be ahead of. That's where our concern is. Because, yes, we could get online. We could probably do better sales. We could probably double or triple our sales if we went online. There's a lot of infrastructure costs behind it. There's a lot of work behind that. And if we chose to take it on, I'm sure eventually we could get to that point. I think it would take a lot of time and a lot of money to get there. I would be excited if we went that route. But right now, we're more focused on how we can still be a part of this community, how we can support this community and have the community support us in the age of internet. Because the problem with going online with everything is then while you're sitting there shopping and clicking our store, you're also looking at Amazon and comparing the prices. And Amazon's going to beat us. So why wouldn't you just make that click instead? So instead, we're trying to make that experience of coming into the store far better than anything you're going to get from Amazon. We're trying to make that the reason you come to us. So by going online, we'd almost be cutting ourselves off at the feet. We want you to come in. We want to have that experience. And in a pandemic, that has not been extremely helpful to us, but at the same time, we've tried to make it still where that can be the escape. That can still be the fantasy. You leave all the rest of that behind when you come in here. Sure, we're all still wearing masks. We're all doing the appropriate thing, but we want that to be a joy. We want that to be fun. And the one upside of the pandemic is a lot of people have a lot of time at home on their hands right now. What do you do with that time? You play a game. You get into miniatures. You build and paint tiny toy soldiers. You read comic books. So that has been amazing for us. And we want that stop to come in. We want you to leave happy. We want you to come in, remember your experience there, and remember that that's what you got coming there. It wasn't the thing you walked out with. I don't care what you walk out with. I want you to, the experience that you walk out with is more important than the item in your bag. Even if there's no item in your bag, if you walked out happy, if you had a fun, great time and you smiled while you were there, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I train my clerks for. That's what I want us to be. I want it to be a fun place that people can go and just enjoy themselves, enjoy the things they love, not be mocked or ridiculed. And I know nerd is cool right now, but even still, I want somewhere where you can go and do that and just be yourself.
May I ask a question that may be perceived as shitty?
Sure.
Do you sincerely think the quality of your staff and your customer service is that much better than anybody else in town?
That's hard for me to answer because there are very few places in town I visit or gone to.
I don't want to name names, and I know,
sure.
and I know, no, you're fine. You're fine, man. But my point is this, is that I've been shopping with that store for a very, very long time. And my experience as a shopper is not as good as it used to be for two reasons. I don't think, and I don't say it, I mean, I've been gone for 6 years, man. It's got nothing to do with me, right? I just don't think the employees have as much get up and go as they used to. But also the product selection is just not for me. I'm not the new initiate gamer who's looking for Pandemic or Settlers of Catan or a 40K starter box set. I want Snowflock for my miniatures. You know, I want to
have that.
Yeah, you did not.
I do now.
You did not. You did not. My point is that I think it's going to be challenging, and I could be wrong, and I don't think that the new miniature market location opening next month is, look, Dave's not going anywhere.
No.
Dave's shrewd. He's smart. And, you know, when push comes to shove, he'll get people to put in the work, right? No, I don't have no doubt in my mind that he is going to be just fine, but it's a different experience.
It is. Absolutely.
To be able to go in and have everything for the uninitiated, all the way to the hardcore psychotic like me, that means a lot. And it's one exit, right? Like, so for me as a driver, I just got to go one exit further.
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
It is. And so here's the way I've looked at it. Ever since this announcement was made, there are going to be some customers we lose. Absolutely. We lose customers to better sales and better selection all the time. We're not going to lose it because they enjoyed going there more. And if they do, then it's the store for them.
Now, see, I don't know if I believe that.
Sure.
I don't think that is fair. I certainly don't think that my time that I was working for Miniature Market, that is a fair criticism. Not that our customer service was all that great, but it was good enough, and good enough with significantly better prices and selection is a big fucking deal.
It is. And I'm not going to discount that. Like I said, it's going to affect us. Absolutely. But we're going to continue doing what we're doing. And that's what I was talking about when he's trying to shift. We can't keep everyone happy. We can't. So focus on the ones that we can. Focus on the people that we can make happy. And if that means I'm focused on people who are picking up their first D&D box set, man, that's the job for me. I want someone who comes in there and they're really excited to try something for the first time. They watched WandaVision and they really want to read a comic and they want to know where should they start. That's the customer for me. That's the person I want to have that conversation with. Yes, I am myself an old timer. Yes, I want the specifics and the nitty gritty. I get that. I see that. We can't make those people happy, and trying to would spread ourselves too thin. So we've got to focus on that initial experience. We've got to focus on that beginner one because we can. That's where we can focus all of our attention and all of our assets towards. And I agree that our customer service is not where it should be. It never is, and nor will I ever agree that it is. Even if we were doing outstanding, I'd say, hey, we could go better. We could do more. That's just the kind of person I am. But it takes time to get there. I got to get people who are committed to that, who aren't here just for a summer job. I got to get people who want to make a smile, want to make an experience, want to make a difference. One of the first things I asked you when you came in, I had just become a manager there. I was like, how do you get the clerks into it? How do you get them excited? And you said, you got to do it. You got to put your skin in. You got to be what you want them to be. And right now, that's where we're at. I've got my managers, myself, Aubrey, Rachel. We're all super excited about that store, super excited about where we're going. And it's starting to rub off. It takes a while to get there. And we've made a few mistakes along the way. But I feel like we're better now than we were a year ago. And I think we're going to continue.
Especially when Aubrey and Rachel are working, the experience is always very, very pleasant for me. You know, they really do put forth an effort, and this is even before they knew me, to just be congenial, helpful, etc. Let's transition into a different subject.
Sure.
Then. Let's talk about Magic the Gathering cards.
Ooh.
Now, you guys still sell singles, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Are you buying singles?
Yes.
All right. Because miniature market, fuck, they're done.
Yeah.
Magic's gone. Done, out, right? But now, you guys, I'm assuming, because I had Darian Stennett from Collector Store on.
Yeah.
And I know that they do a pretty healthy amount of Magic business.
Absolutely.
How has your Magic business been through COVID and through the changes that you guys have made regarding your play space and Friday Night Magic and things?
So there was definitely a drop-off, hard drop-off. Between the play space changing and the pandemic, it was almost nothing there for a while. And we weren't accepting cards because there were all these things like, can COVID exist on surfaces? Should people be exchanging things? So we cut off all trading in for a while.
Yeah, the misinformation, the disinformation, the confusion and lies. And I think there's a different rule today. I haven't checked.
Probably. So we cut it off entirely. Since then, we're starting to get a pretty healthy amount right now. We'll walk in every day when we walk in because we have a new online system for ordering Magic singles. Yeah, we've actually gone online.
Kick ass. Good for you.
Yeah, we'll come in and we have 3 or 4 orders waiting for us every morning that we need to fill in from our supply. And so when the customer comes in, they can come and pick it up. So we're starting to pick back up again. We did a Commander tournament this last weekend, and we're doing part of it again this weekend. We're splitting it up to where only a small number of people in the store each time, and they're not to touch each other's cards, and everyone has to wear masks and get temperatures taken, so we're trying to be really safe. But we still want to be that place where people come and play and have fun. We're not planning on getting out of singles anytime soon. We have a healthy supply of stuff in the back that we need to go through so that we can sell, but we want to sell. We want to get out there, and we want to offer it. I think the biggest problem is going to be for us the continuing changes that WotC is making as far as...
now I'm salivating. Now we've come to the crux of the conversation. So what is it that WotC is doing, and why does it have you disheartened? Forgive me, I'm assuming disheartened based on tone.
So it's a mixed bag for me for one particular reason, and we'll get to that in a second, but part of it is...
You don't want to have Gandalf in Terminator armor with the Elder Wand? You don't want that? You don't want him dual wielding the Elder Wand and Lucille? No, I don't either because it's fucking stupid. But that's just my opinion, and does not represent those of the Influence Foundation. Yes, they do.
So I have to admit, a part of me did a little cheer when I saw the 40K crossover. Only because I'm a 40K guy too. So I was like, sure, why not? I'll have a 40K Commander deck for, just to have around. But I still think it's bad for the general playing community. And I think their attempt to now take control of reprints like reprinting Time Master, the singles they're putting out through their secret layers. They're trying to ease in to that secondary market. I had a long conversation with Darian about this. And
because you and Darian are
friends.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I didn't know if frenemies was going to be the right word.
No. I have always enjoyed Darian.
Yeah.
My time
even though he can
him.
be a prick.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things I do really enjoy about him.
Me too.
And I have to remind him, I'm like, Darian, I know what you're trying to say. That's not how that's coming across because of the way you're saying it.
Yeah, it's like Dave and Kel.
Yeah. It is sometimes, and I've heard her say that. So we talked about this, and he doesn't think the secondary market's going to go anywhere because then buying packs becomes worthless. If there's no reason to come in and buy a $5 card, then there's no reason to maybe open a pack to get that $5 card, that $3 pack. So he thinks it's safe for the time being. I am not convinced. I am convinced that now that WotC actually technically doesn't exist, this is interesting, Hasbro fully initiated them into the company. That division is called Wizards of the Coast, but Wizards of the Coast doesn't actually exist as an entity anymore.
Were they legally dissolved? Is that they just got assimilated?
It's now a division of Hasbro.
Okay, so then, I mean, I think that then probably like guys like Jolly Blackburn are right that, you know, it's just rumor mongering that people thought, because I was one of them, that WotC might be on the sales floor.
Oh, right now it's the only thing making Hasbro money.
Right.
It is their only money making.
I read that article recently and I was like, well, I guess I got to eat my fucking hat. Yeah.
But what I do think is interesting is WotC was the one that made the reserve list, the promise to never print these certain cards.
WotC doesn't exist.
Yeah. I think in the long term, I think Hasbro is going to attempt to not print on demand, but sort of recreate the secondary market within their own control. Reprint sets like Time Spiral. Reprint earlier sets, like why not do a reprint of Alpha? Why not? I mean, are you going to lower the value of that original Alpha card? Probably not, but you're then influxing a whole new...
But why print paper cards at all? I mean, unless it is for a highly sought-after collectible, like we're doing a reprint of Alpha. We're doing a reprint of, hey, we're going to do a Power 9 secret layer, right? Other than that, why? Why not just go fully digital?
Because they're still working out the kinks, I'm pretty sure. I have to assume someone in there is doing it. I have to assume someone in there is working on, because right now the biggest holdup is, I think, it's Commander. I think it's the only thing really standing in their way to completely going digital, and I think someone's working on it. The interactions are the toughest part because Commander, when you have 4 people all playing Magic at the same time, the different levels of triggers and computer programming that might go into trying to do that, yeah, it's a headache just thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that at all. And it is my understanding, based on other people to whom I've spoken in the industry, that Commander is their big... You know, that casual kitchen table Magic is really what gets people in the door.
Oh, absolutely. They may say we're printing this because like standard sets. They're like, oh, this, you know, standard doesn't exist anymore. It's Arena. The standard in play right now due to
an Arena is the digital format.
Yes.
So they created a digital format that killed a paper format. I just wanted to make sure that was a step that we've taken.
The pandemic helped a lot.
Well, sure. But the thing is what is the cliche? It takes 21 days to establish a new habit.
Yeah.
It's been 52 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Even opening back up, there are going to be some people who just want to sit there and play with cards in their hands. Absolutely. There are going to be people who want that community. Absolutely. And that's why they keep printing paper. Because there is going to be that holdout. Those guys who always want to just sit down at a table, sit across from their opponent, and just play with actual cards in their hands. But some of them are going to move online. If they offer Commander, yes, we would lose a lot of players to online. There's just going to be that holdout. Even with role-playing. Like, yes, you can do it on Discord.
That's a different situation altogether for me. It's not the same. Mechanically... Outthinking my opponent on digital cards is one thing. The disconnect of human communication via the computer is ugly and cruel and evil and impersonal, and I fucking hate it.
And I agree absolutely. I think there's a layer to that to in-person play for trying to outwit your opponent. I think there's that unspoken...
Yeah, I'll concede that for sure.
Bluffing in poker. Like, you have to have that person across the table from you.
Yeah.
You got to have that. Do you see a tell? Do you think you know what they have? How are they playing? Are they aggressive? Are they holding back? You don't get that from a computer screen. And so there's always going to be those group of people. And so, of course, you keep printing it because you're still printing money. And it's still, as long as they keep that printing money, that printing cardboard makes them money, they're not going to stop. Why would you?
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on the 5th edition 40K D&D box set?
So WotC owns both properties. They have already mixed over quite a bit. Like, you can get D&D 5th edition books that are in the world of
Magic.
Magic, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a natural progression for them. I don't think there's actually as much crossover between those products as they think there is. There are certainly some people who love both, but I don't think there's enough that you're going to get people clamoring for it. But they're taking dartboards and throwing them at a wall, and whatever hits, they're going to go for it. And they can. They got enough money to do that. Like, I never thought I'd see a Warhammer crossover with Wizards. First of all, because Warhammer's very stingy about their IP. And secondly, because it just doesn't make any damn sense.
No, I think Games Workshop, because the people that work in this industry are significantly smarter than I am.
Sure.
Case in point. But I think Games Workshop recognizes that they have a limited window to be the industry titan that they are. And that they're going to have to take every opportunity to pivot in the new world. Because as it stands right now, I can spend a few $100s on a really, really good printer that is less than, I don't know, half the price of an army of Space Marines, and I can make everything.
Yeah.
And the future is going to be a situation where your codex comes out. You just don't print it. It's just all digital. Mm-hmm. Updates are live and constant. And if you want a new kit for your killer can, I'm not printing the entire killer can. I just want this new weapon that got released with the new codex. I'm just going to print that weapon that already has my rare earth magnet recesses built in. It's all ready to go. I'm going to print it. I'm going to clean it, and I'm done, right? Yeah. I think that, now it might be 20 or 30 years,
sure,
but that's the future of what it is that we do. Yeah. Now imagine it's Dungeons and Dragons, it's 5th edition D&D, and you have a special encounter for Strahd. Well, are you part of our Patreon or part of our regular subscription service? You get access to the special Strahd STL that only backers or only members get to do. And there's physical only matters for what you create yourself, right? And I think Games Workshop realizes I'm sorry, this is becoming too much about me blathering, but the magic is the intellectual property, right? Owning Thor, owning Space Marine, owning Gandalf, that's the thing that makes the money. Wizards of the Coast is wrong where GW is right. GW can take that and put it on anything. Dungeons and Dragons is not a monolithic intellectual property. Mm-hmm. Neither is Magic. They're games that we play that we've built our own stories to. Yeah. And so we all have a similar experience, but we have a much more congealed common experience when we talk about Star Wars, when we talk about Marvel, when we talk about 40K. Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant.
No, and I think Wizards is actually trying to figure that part out too. They are coming out with a new comic from Boom Studios. They've tried comics in the past, but the comics they tried in the past were based on certain characters, based on stuff that was already in the world of... Now they're actually trying to tell a story, an overall unique story set in the world of Magic the Gathering. And I think it's a very interesting concept, and it's a very interesting direction for them to take it. It seems like a logical step. There are tons of people who play the game and like, oh, there's a story, these characters actually do things, don't care. But there's other people who are like, oh, no, I read this online, And for years, you had one of two things. You either had really terrible books because they licensed their stuff out to really terrible writers, or you had these little snippets on Wizards of the Coast or Magic's websites. And that's the only way you really got that Magic story. But now they're actually got good writers, just like with Warhammer. Warhammer got Kieran Gillen to write Marnius Calgar through Marvel comic. It's amazing. I love it. They're getting good writers, just like Warhammer did with their books, and they're starting to put stories out that are going to actually matter. I think it is the next step. It is the we can only hold on to this for so long. We can only control this for so long. And I think we see that with the new sets that come out. They say it's a standard set, but really most of what's in there is built for Commander.
That's what Darian was saying when I had him on the show, that it is very obvious that they're catering to the Commander market.
And they know it's because they've lost that market, so they have to cater to something else. And they're pivoting, and they're trying to stay ahead of that inevitable, okay, this isn't a thing anymore. People are not going to buy this from us anymore, so we need to have some other outlet. Digital, stories, something.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I think the distinction, though, is that so many people have an idea of what Magic is, and it is unique to them.
Yeah.
Even more people have an idea of what Dungeons and Dragons is, and to you it might be Greyhawk, and to me it could be Forgotten Realms, or it could be the near incalculable number of homebrews that have existed.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
I think that is too broad a thing to try to shoehorn into cartoons and movies and comic books, but I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, these people are much smarter than I am.
I don't think you're wrong. I think they're going to try anyway, because why not? It's going to cost them the minimal cost of the printing of stuff, and if it doesn't make as much money, okay, they scrap it and go on to their next idea. They have the ability to do that. They have the absolute cash flow that is every other thing they're putting out to just take risks and take chances, and it makes it easier to try something that might not work. They might even know it might not work, but why not?
I do have a silly question, and this is just for my own gratification.
Sure.
So, do you guys still use ACD?
Rarely.
Okay. Do they, because there was a time where they were cut off from WotC. Are they still cut off from WotC?
I don't know, because we definitely don't go through them for that product. Like it's got to be I can't find it anywhere else, but ACD does actually have it for us to go to ACD.
Right, unless it's an Asmodee product, right? Or you get that's directly from Asmodee.
Yeah, directly from Asmodee now. They've got their own distribution network.
Interesting. So I wonder what's going on with ACD then, because this time last year at GAMA, there was an announcement that ACD had a new unusual partnership with Asmodee. I don't know what's come of that, or if
So it was interesting. They had that announcement, and then shortly after that, Asmodee was just like, oh, we're doing our whole own distribution thing. ACD is going to take care of these small areas for us that we can't ship to yet. We weren't one of them, so we never had to worry about that.
Right.
I went to the ACD, the thing they do.
The open house?
Yeah, not last year because it didn't happen, but the year before that. And I'm not sure how much longer they have a place in the world. I mean, if they did lose the WotC stuff.
That's because if that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's like 60% of their sales right there. Like between different Magic sets, D&D products, you can't be a gaming company. You can't be a gaming distribution company and not sell that stuff. Not unless you're like only selling like, what's the term I'm looking for? The old time war stuff, like Bolt and like the little miniatures, metal ones.
Oh, you're talking about like the old school, pike and pike and shot, and old historical miniatures.
Historicals, thank you. Yes, unless you're focused on that, you can't not carry those other products.
Right.
Because of course there's a group of people out there who really, really, really want that stuff and will keep anybody open if they sell that stuff, which is a whole other. I don't even know what that group's about.
Historical gamers?
Yeah.
Oh, they're just, there's a bunch of old grognards who just want to get together, and they just want to make sure that the tips of your lapel are the right color for that particular period. And you know what? I'm not going to prosecute those guys for wrong fun.
No.
Because if I were making a list of wrong fun, there are things that would be way toward the top above historical 15 millimeter, miniature gaming or 6 millimeter micro armor bullshit that I don't ever want to do.
Sure. And I agree wholeheartedly. I just don't understand them. I cannot wrap my mind around that. Like the idea that
for me, it's Magic players.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because they I mean, some of my favorite people are Magic players, but the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the disrespect for the place that you're at, just leaving trash everywhere. I mean, I know I cuss on my podcast, but you can fucking turn it off, right? I'm not having this conversation in a room with 90 other people.
Yeah.
I'm not on board. And yet some of the coolest people that I know that I hang out with are avid and talented Magic players.
Oh, yeah, and it's a spectrum. Like, there's always going to be, it's going to go both ways. And unfortunately, you kind of, to a certain degree, have to take the good with the bad, except we got to the point to where the bad just weren't supporting us as a store. So it made it difficult to make decisions that would support them as a particular community.
No, I absolutely concur, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand about the retail space. You have people who come into the store that are consumers and supporters of the shop, and you have people that are visitors. You have people that come in and they want to use your facilities, your tables, your space, your light, your air conditioning, your bathroom, and not contribute financially to the shop. I have no objection to those people being asked to participate or go elsewhere.
Yeah. But it's difficult to have that conversation because a lot of them, especially the ones on that end of the spectrum, feel like it's owed to them. Like, no, you're here for me. Your space is here so that I can use it. You guys wouldn't exist if we didn't exist. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but your very existence does not pay my bills.
Right. When's the last time you spent money here? I remember the worst feedback I ever got from a customer. It actually caused a huge thread, like a multi-page thing on Board Game Geek. And this is a guy with whom he and I had conversations about his divorce, about private stuff. I thought we were close. And something happened at the shop. I won't get into it, but basically he flamed me on Board Game Geek, and it was asinine. And I was like, dude, I mean, you're a friend, but you don't spend money here.
Yeah.
You don't, and that's okay. You can come and be a fan and proselytize the hobby, but this is a business and I have to prioritize the people who support us financially.
Absolutely, because that's how you keep the lights on. That's how you keep supporting that community. It's symbiotic. It's cyclical. You support them. They support you. You continue to support them.
But it breaks my heart to think that the fantasy shop has evolved to the point where I'm no longer the target audience. And I get it. It's not, look, I don't think it's no fault, right?
Sure.
I don't think anybody is making a mistake. It's just that this is a place that I've been going almost my entire life for almost 40 years. And I feel like that it's not for me anymore, other than the people that I go in there and I like talking to.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You've graduated. And you'll come back and you can talk to your old teachers. You can talk to some of the other kids that are just like, oh, you're just getting into that. And you can have a good time. But yeah, it's not geared for you. And it's sad, absolutely. And it's not something we're choosing to do to ostracize that group.
No, you're trying to adapt with the time. And I think that Dave wisely recognizes that there is an opportunity for people who can find a place that they're comfortable with, that is welcoming as the uninitiated, to help them out. And I get that. It makes a lot of sense to me. I just, it's like, I don't know. It was always something special to me, and it's changed so much that it's not for me anymore. And that makes me old and sad. And I get it that I'm just a middle-aged, old whatever, and I don't like change. I get that.
Yeah.
I get it.
I understand, and I sympathize absolutely. It's the same decision, the same thing we talked about a little bit ago, that we have to make the decision that's going to best support the people that are more often supporting us. And that's the group that is. And it's great to have a place that's what I call beginner friendly. Like, there's nothing more intimidating than walking into some place and not knowing, especially a place dedicated to fandoms, to things that people dedicate hours, years of their life to. Coming into that place and being the beginner, being that, oh, I think I like that thing, but I'm not sure. Where do you start? How do you get in? How do you ask? And there are so many of those groups that will gatekeep the hell out of that thing because they don't want new people in it. They say they do. They want more people to play with, sure, but they don't. They want, if you're not a fan, and have been for 10 years, and you're not a real fan. I don't want that. I want a place that's going to be,
yeah, but weren't you like that with punk music? weren't you judgmental and guarded, and once it was no longer yours, you were a dick about it?
To a certain degree, absolutely. But now if I'm at a punk show and I see a kid who's there obviously for his first time and he gets into the pit and he might be getting himself in trouble, I'm going to be the first one there to help him up and pull him back out.
See, as a 46-year-old person, I see people today in 2021 wearing Misfits t-shirts, and I just want to punch them. I'm like, you don't see me with a goddamn Post Malone face tattoo. I'm not trying to skeeve in on your shit, man. Leave my shit alone.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. Think about it. That music, at that time, what did it do for you? At that time in your life, when you first heard that, what did it do for you?
Here's the distinction. Here's the difference, and this is going to make me sound super prickish and judgmental. When I heard that, right, when I heard the Misfits, it is on a crappy, scratchy, bootleg tape that I'm listening to through some bad orange foam headphones on not even a proper Walkman, right? Like a tabletop rectangular thing. And then you hear, Dead Milkmen and Dead Kennedys, and you've got a huge crush on Kathy Boatner, your older sister's best friend. And it was just a magic time. And I was a kid at the time that music was kind of doing its thing.
Sure.
And that, I don't know, I lived that time. It was kind of magic. And I guess, my dad's generation probably feels the same way when they hear me listening to The Doors, because I'm not listening to it on an 8-track or an LP. But I don't know, just
that kid with that shirt's feeling that magic.
I know, and I'm happy for that kid, and I want them to, stand on top of their chair in class and, scream, "I've got something to say." But I just want a Coke. I killed a baby today, and it doesn't matter much to me. Yeah, I'm not going to sing on my show because I suck. But yeah, God, I love the Misfits.
Yeah.
I mean, back when Glenn Danzig, before he became, I don't know.
Yeah, when he was just short and angry.
Yeah, I like short and angry for sure. I do. So where's the fantasy shop going, right? Now, not where you're going to be in the next 5 years, because probably dead. But where's the fantasy shop going to be in the next 5 years?
My hope is, and my dream is, we are that place you bring your kids. When your kid first wants to create their first D&D character, where you go. When your friend who sees you playing this game for years wants to learn about it, that's where you go. When you watch a new Marvel movie, when Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out, and you want to read a comic, we're where you go. You've never seen it. You don't know it. You're uninitiated. We're that place that opens our arms and says, yes, come here. Welcome home. That's where I want us to be. That's where I hope we're going.
Brett, is there anything that you want to promote to the audience? Is there anything that people need to know about? Is there a charity maybe for people that have your particular illness that you would want to promote?
It's called BeTheMatch.org, and it's really simple. If you're between the ages, I can't remember them offhand, but it's like 18 and 40-something, and you're relatively healthy, they'll send you this kit for free. And it's a DNA kit, more or less. They send it, you swab your cheek, you put it back in, you send it back out, and they will take your DNA and put you in this registry. And if at any point in time, anywhere in the world needs a bone marrow match and you pop up, they'll give you a call and be like, hey, are you willing to donate some bone marrow stem cells to help save a life? And you could literally, for a day and a little bit of pain in your side, because it is a pretty big needle, for a couple of days of discomfort, you could save someone's life. You could change their life. And that's amazing to me. Just the fact that you could be that for just a random person. And you could meet them, you could never meet them, but you could just know that one day, that couple hours possibly saved someone's life. Who doesn't want to be a superhero for a day?
Brett Condit, you're a remarkable guy. I will say this. I always felt jilted that Dave did not appreciate me to the degree that I felt I needed to be appreciated. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with my own hangups. But I think that Dave and Kelly are very lucky to have you and people like you, because you have a special thing that I have seen a number of people come through the fantasy shop have. You care about the hobby and the hobby experience so much. And you recognize because it's bigger than you have such a great attitude in wanting to share it with people. Because it's not about making money, right? It's not about, oh, I work on commission and I'm crushing sales. For you, for John, for a lot of other people with whom you work, it's clear to me that you care about this thing, this community that we do. So, as an interviewer and podcaster, but also as a shopper, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the effort that you put forth. I really do.
Well, thank you. I know what it meant to me. Escapism to me has been that place, has been that thing that throughout the years, the good and the bad, has been that place where I can go and feel like I can take control. I can be the one that sets the rules, that sets the boundaries, that sets the world. And I know that it's what it is for a lot of people. And I want to be able to give that to them. I want to open up the world to them. The world was opened up for me through gaming, through music, through all of my different nerd hobbies. I have experienced much more because of those things. And I want to be able to pass that along. I want everyone to be able to feel that. And I think it's the easiest thing in the world to do is to just hand something over to someone that you think or you hope is going to widen their eyes and make them smile. And that is the greatest thing in the world to do. I don't work in sales. I don't work in retail. I work in experiences. And I want to give that to every person who comes in the door, and I look for that, and that's what my goal is. That's what my goal is for every single customer, is to give them that experience.
Well, retailers, if you're listening, that attitude is what you want to cultivate in your employees. Why We Game is a production of the Influence Foundation, all rights reserved. Audio editing by Brodor, music by Owen Godwin.